Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this week's segment of Policy Perplexities here on CBC Radio. I'm Gregory Hamilton. Joining us today, we have Jasmine Bonang from Maternity Matters, a non-for-profit, non-governmental organization in Canada that advocates for the rights of new parents by lobbying for changes to some of the current policies that are affecting new moms and dads. Good morning, Jasmine. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Gregory. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
Now, as I said, you are joining us from Maternity Matters. I took a look at your website this week, and it seems that your primary focus right now is on changing the maternity and parental leave benefits that are being offered through the Employment Insurance Program.
Yes, that's correct. That's our primary focus at this time.
Now, the Liberal government has proposed some changes to the current program. In fact, the Conservative government had a similar plan before Stephen Harper's term ended. Right now, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is looking to extend parental leave to 18 months.
Yes, that's correct.
Which sounds pretty good. Parents are able to spend more time at home with their kids before they go back to work. I know many working moms who would love that opportunity. But reading some of the publications posted on the Maternity Matters website, I see your organization has a different take on the matter.
That's right, Gregory. So getting an additional 6 months of leave does sound quite appealing on the surface, doesn't it? I also know a lot of parents, moms in particular, who would really enjoy the extra time. The problem is the proposed changes don't address many of the issues surrounding accessibility to the program that we already have in place. The changes that Prime Minister Trudeau's government are suggesting may actually exclude even more parents than the current program, and that's a problem.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Sure. So let's take it back a bit, and I'll explain what the current benefits are like now, just to have a better understanding of some of the issues. Parental leave benefits are administered by the federal government to parents who are providing care for either a newborn baby or a newly adopted child, and maternity benefits are provided to moms who can't work either due to pregnancy or because they've just recently given birth. So in order to be eligible for these benefits, a parent must be employed in insurable employment, and their weekly earnings must have been reduced by a minimum of 40% as a result of birth, pregnancy, or adoption. They also need to accumulate a minimum of 600 hours of insurable employment over the course of the year prior to beginning their leave. When we look at the current eligibility criteria, we see that 41% of mothers living in Canada who are living outside of Quebec don't actually qualify for the EI benefits based on the number of insurable hours they've accumulated. Around 63% of women who earned less than $30,000 didn't qualify for benefits. Those are very large numbers, and it is a significant portion of women that don't qualify for these benefits.
Okay, now I noticed you mentioned this number is looking at women living outside of Quebec.
Yes.
Why are Quebec women not included?
That's a great question. Quebec actually has its own parental leave program separate from the rest of Canada called the Quebec Parental Insurance Plan. So this plan has entirely different eligibility criteria. If you compare the EI program with Quebec's program, only 11% of women don't qualify for benefits in Quebec.
Wow, that is quite the difference. I know that there are a few groups who are making some of the same arguments as Maternity Matters. I believe CUPE, the Canadian Union of Public Employees, has also spoken out against these changes.
That's right. CUPE shares some of the same concerns that we do at Maternity Matters. They support the elongated parental leave just as we do, but they've also recommended that the government increase the financial benefits that parents receive over an extended period of time. I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but the Trudeau government does not want to provide more monetary compensation to parents who are off for the 18 months. They would just like to pay out the same benefit amount as though parents were only off for the year.
Oh, okay, I see.
The Public Service Alliance of Canada has also submitted a brief outlining some of the major concerns that they have. They mentioned in their brief that the benefits are not adequate for mothers who are low-income earners and who end up having to return to work early just so that they can get back to earning full-time wages. So that's a huge disadvantage.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but what about from a business perspective? How would lengthening parental leave times and adding supplemental leave for the second parent affect business owners? I mean, it can be burdensome for some organizations to have to fill positions temporarily. It can cost money to advertise these positions, sort through resumes and whatnot. How can these issues be addressed?
Well, I think the best way to mitigate some of these issues is simply communication and cooperation between employers and employees. In cases where positions are being filled, it might be beneficial to have the replacement begin training before the employee begins their leave. If the duties are being split across other employees during the leave, then it would be helpful to have a clearly written expectation and provide adequate reimbursement and help the employees who are lending a hand.
It does sound like it would help alleviate some of the pressures from businesses for sure. Now, what kind of recommendations do you have for the federal government?
We have a few recommendations, a lot of which are based off of the Quebec model, actually. First, we would ask the federal government make the program more eligible simply by revising the qualifying criteria that's currently in place. This is really to help out individuals who are low-income earners or in precarious employment. So we'd suggest reducing the number of hours worked from 600 to 300 over the course of a year, or earnings of $2,000. Also opening access to EI benefits to migrant workers, and then using the Quebec model as an example again, incorporate conditions for self-employed workers.
You mentioned earlier about leave for the second parent as well?
Yes. So we would ask that supplementary benefits be provided for the second parent, meaning an extra 5 to 8 weeks of leave. This would really promote greater gender equity and support for joint parenting as well.
What about the rates that parents receive now while they're on leave?
Well, like I said, these payments are often extremely inadequate. Right now, individuals are offered 55% of their average earnings, but we'd like to see that increase to 70%. We would like to see a minimum EI benefit amount implemented, and sort of in relation to that, instead of offering extended leave with a lower payout, or granting the option of taking parental benefits and unpaid leave for shorter periods up to 18 months, we'd like to see a more inclusive option that would contribute to equitable choices for working families as well as just versatility of caregivers.
Okay, I can't help but think some of these difficulties surrounding childcare that must occur from parents who are returning to work before the year is up, or even after the 18 months.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That is another one of our recommendations. It's very difficult for parents to find childcare providers who will take children under 2 years, and it is more difficult the younger the child is. So for parents who have to return to work when their child is 6 months old, let's say, finding a caregiver can feel like an impossible task. This sometimes means having to place their baby in an unlicensed daycare, which can be concerning. So we propose introducing a universal child care program that is affordable and provides care for children 0 to 18 months.
That sounds like something that would benefit a lot of parents immensely. So just before we wrap things up here, are there any final thoughts you would like to leave with us?
Yes, I would just like to emphasize how inaccessible our current benefit program is and how detrimental it is to both parents and children. We've seen from the Quebec model that it really doesn't need to be that way. The changes we're proposing aren't going to create a perfect program by any means, but they would really help a lot of individuals and families who are low-income earners and really assist in creating greater equity between men and women. We strongly believe that the Liberal government is proposing changes that are going to help very few people and that more needs to be done.
Absolutely. You've made some really clear arguments here today. I would like to thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Gregory. It's been a pleasure.